Bill Murray is funny, clever, and an immensely talented actor. He's above all else a kind human being who has perspective through many years of fighting the good fight in the entertainment business. He made his way fearlessly and with great passion, wanting to be the very best. Bill Murray is a global star today because he demanded much from himself and elevated to a well developed and respected actor, transcending the mere comedic elements that many mistakenly associate him with. Bill, I want to thank you for taking time with me on Great Dane Nation. And as you got going in your career, was the late great Rodney Dangerfield one of your biggest influences? And when exactly did you realize that you were funny?
Well, I was sort of confident by that point. I didn't really meet Rodney until I was sort of full grown. But I used to think my dad laughed. That was a big deal in my house. We had a big family, so if you made your dad laugh, that was a very big deal. Very competitive to make our father laugh. He was a tough laugh. In terms of professionals, well, I guess Belushi was a guy who was a little older than I was, and I think the fact that, and he was destined, he was already on his way to becoming, a very celebrated and famous and wonderful actor. And he thought I was funny and gave me my first job in New York. I got a job working for the National Lampoon Radio Hour. And I worked with Christopher Guest, and we basically had the run of the place. And the engineer was a guy named Bob Tischler, the producer of the show. And that was really an exciting time to be given that much responsibility to create a radio show every week, a recorded radio show. We had to work lots and lots of hours and come up with something. And it was a lot of pressure to do so, but it was also what the hell I was, sort of trained to do and wanting to do. So it was a great job. People always talk about how they work 100 hours a week. I don't know if everyone really does. I think I'm not counting commuting time when I said I worked 100 hours a week. It was fun. That was a lot of fun. And working with Chris Guest and Belushi saying it was a big deal was great. And my brother, really, my brother Brian Doyle Murray was instrumental. He really is the reason I got into this whole racket anyways, because I would go watch him at Second City, and not that I thought I could do it, but I didn't really have any prospects, and certainly when I first tried to do it, I couldn't do it at all, and so I walked off the stage out of the theater and just walked like about 75 blocks in the wrong direction until I had to turn around and come back. I didn't really have enough money to take a taxi, so it was kind of like a long walk round trip. It was about a 15 or 20 mile walk into the dark, on kind of reflecting on who I was versus who I thought I was.
Was it the goal of people in Second City to try to get to SNL, or was that completely a separate thing where we're doing live comedy here, right? And it's so different than film, and I'd like to get your thoughts on your take on, live shows versus film, because two different animals, right? So, but at Second City, were you like, man, I got to get to New York and to SNL and join those great people that are doing that, because that seems like a really cool collaboration?
Okay, well, when we came out of there, Saturday Night Live didn't exist yet. That's the fact. So we were there at the beginning of Saturday Night Live. We were in New York. But if you were at Second City and you got to be, somewhat good, there were two kinds of actors and actresses, and you either kind of wanted to be in film or you wanted to be on the stage. I wanted to be on the stage. And those kind of actors, they turned east and headed towards New York. And the actors that wanted to be on television or in movies, they turned west and went to California. So back then, that's what there was. That was the option. I sort of thought, well, I kind of like the theater, and that's what I've been doing. I'm going to stick with that. And then after I'd done the National Lampoon radio show for a while, I was, put into the National Lampoon show, which was an off-Broadway comedy review, not unlike the sort of show that we did at Second City, but a little bit wilder, a little bit crazier. a little bit more, quite a bit more aggressive, and what people would say edgy. It was much more bold than what we were doing in Chicago. And I was in a cast with Harold Ramis and my brother Brian and Belushi and Gilda Radner and Joe Flaherty and Richard Belzer came into it at the end of it. Am I forgetting someone?
Dan Aykroyd?
He came out of the Second City in Toronto.
Okay.
And John Candy came out of the Second City in Toronto. Gilda came out of the Second City in Toronto, and she came into the National Lampoon show in New York when we were there. She came from there. She's actually a Michiganer. She's from Detroit, but she ended up in Canada. She ended up working in Canada, and she came out of the Second City there. And that's where all the funny Schitt's Creek people came from, and Dave Thomas and Rick Moranis and Catherine O'Hara and Martin Short and Eugene Levy and Aykroyd and more people whose names I'm having trouble getting at the second, but like that.
Yeah, you had an unbelievable cast at SNL. Was it a collaborative effort to get these skits written? I mean, where you had writers, but I'm sure if you had an idea, right, or Aykroyd had an idea, or Belushi, you'd push those forward, and they would. What was it like working with Lorne Michaels?
Well, he's gotten pretty damn good at the job, I gotta say. He's gotten pretty damn good because he managed to convince them they needed him and they needed this show, and he talked a pretty good game. And the writers and those actors, that original group of actors, I wasn't in the first group of actors. I replaced Chevy in the second season, but that original group of writers and actors, they were pretty ferocious. They were pretty strong. And I think he believed that, I think Lorne Michaels believed that late night television was wide open, that there was no reason why you couldn't, set off fireworks at 11:30 at night. And he was right. But he was very judicious about what he did. He insisted on rating the whole NBC network for the best professional at each position, the best prop man, the best sound man, the best lighting man, the best cameraman. And he rated every single show in the whole network and got them all to do that show and said, look, you don't understand. We're gonna make history here, and you better not miss this boat, And he convinced them, and he talked it up. And you had to argue with network people that felt like they had to answer to sponsors and somebody or someone. And so he was at war all the time to create the space that we needed. And
interesting.
We were sort of isolated in the building. We were alone in the building after hours. We were up there all night long. Everyone else had left the building. We were the only vampires in the place writing this comedy in the middle of the night. So I hope I'm answering your questions, but there were people, you asked about writers, and there were some writers or actors that could really write, like Danny Aykroyd was a very good writer and would generate a lot of things. Chevy generated a lot of things, and the writers sort of wrote for the actors that they liked, and the better you were doing as an actor, the more the writers would write a sketch for you, knowing that actor would carry the day, because it's all about getting your piece on the air. So you give the piece sense. To like the hot actor, or they're all good, everybody's good, but they had people that they would think, oh, if I give this to, I can say this because when I was the new guy, no one gave me anything, because they were like, I was just unknown and unproven, so I would be the second cop in the door, the second FBI guy always. But so they give it to people that they could count on, because they didn't, you could see how an actor could, blow a line on live TV or just sort of miss a mark, do anything. So they go with people that were rolling,
Was there a skit on SNL that you felt broke you through the ether, if you will, like this is going to make me, the cone, it could be whether it was the news with Chevy Chase or the Coneheads, or, was there one particular one that you remember from SNL that said, man, this fits me?
Well, the first week they had me on the show, they gave me a whole lot to do. I had like 3 sketches to do, and I did them very well. You know, I was there on a look-see basis. And then after the show, just walking out, you know, Lorne Michael said, well, I guess you're going to be moving here. Okay, cool. All right, I got the job. But then I proceeded, you know, follow the arrows to the second cop through the door, the second FBI guy. That's what I was for a while. But the first time I was on, I was, you know, I was good. I was, you know, I showed that I could do it. But that didn't mean the writers wrote anything. So, and then it was kind of, you know, you're kind of there, but you're not there. And back then there were only 7 of us. You know, now there's, God, I don't know how many actors are on the show 15. Now. I couldn't tell you, 13, 18. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it was a dogfight to get on a show with 7. I don't know how these people, I don't know how they're secure enough to, you know, go. You can go weeks without being on the show nowadays. You know, just weeks. You know, so that was hard enough. But there was a time when I had this sort of thought in my head, and then Lorne Michaels came and said, "Why don't you do a little thing where you just talk like yourself?" And so I made up this kind of thing, and I just talk like myself. And people went, "Okay, that guy knows he's like, you know, whatever the hell kind of, I don't want to say any wrong expression, but like an extra apparatus on an animal that doesn't need one, sort of." But acknowledging it and then saying, "Just trust me, relax. I'm going to be funny. You know, I know I can do this. Don't worry. Just don't worry about me. It's going to be fine. But just, I know what you're feeling. And I'm telling you, you really don't have to worry." It kind of had that feeling. It was fun. And then I wrote a sketch after a little while. I hadn't been writing many sketches. And I walked in. Back then you had to have you had to get your sketch delivered to the printing department, which was an attack group that got, you know, how many? God, 40 or 50 different scripts printed and like 30 copies of each distributed to every member of the cast, every member of every department for the read-through. Mm-hmm. Well, I wrote this sketch that there was 1 copy, you know, and I sat next to like the 2 or 3 people that were in the sketch, and we sort of did it and got to the end of it. And there was total silence, and there was and there was like, Lorne Michaels was sort of like, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to do, this guy should know that what he's supposed to do. And the wonderful Tom Davis said, "I can help Billy finish that thing." And that was all it took. I mean, he saved my life, or I would have been like blistered for not being, you know, I've been on the show for months and I still didn't understand how things worked. But anyway, I did this show where I had a shower, microphone where it makes you have a shower. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was Gilda and Buck Henry and myself in a shower. And it was very silly. And that was it. That was all it took. And that got me, that was the last show of the season or something. And I just felt, it's like you kick the field goal to win the game. You know, it's like you made it to the playoffs. You know, you did it. Yeah. You know, you did it. So that was, that got me through the whole summer. And then I went and like did some movie stuff or something. And it just, by the time, and the funny thing was, even though I barely was in these shows, you know, by the time I came back from the summer, I was sort of famous on the street in New York just because they reran the shows, and and everyone watched the show. So they go like, "Oh yeah, you're the new guy. That's right, you're the new guy." So which was just, you know, odd, weird, but also part of the ride, as they say.
You made such a great transition to film, and I love some of your films. I mean, the one everybody talks about, of course, the Ghostbusters 1 and 2, and then Caddyshack with Chevy Chase. But one of my favorite movies was shot in Japan, I believe. It's called Lost in Translation. Absolutely love that movie. Was it hard to play a more serious role being a comedian, or is that something you did on purpose, or, you know, to stretch a little bit?
No, I didn't do it. I mean, really, there was never any kind of plan, Morten. I mean, I just, when we came out of Second City, we didn't think of ourselves as comedians, although we, you know, obviously part of the skill set was that you knew how to be funny. We thought of ourselves as actors. Uh-huh. So it never was, to me, and, you know, people that are comic actors or comedians, there's a difference between a comedian and a comic. You know, it's like there's a comic and there's a comedian. A comedian is, to me, is someone who does, you know, who can act funny parts, can do comedy in theater form or in movie form or whatever. And so there was well, it was not a big deal to be acting. And really, if you're really a comedian, you have to be straight. You have to be able to act straight to get laughs. I don't think people understand that. It's not like you're waving your head or sticking your tongue out. I think you have to say a lot of lines in a very serious way to make people laugh. So it wasn't a big thing for me to do that. It was how I was trained.
Yeah, the Groundhog Day was very tongue in cheek. What it reminded us of is that it really was. Groundhog Day was like, oh shit, here we go again.
That's a funny way. You made me laugh. That's a funny way of putting it, tongue in cheek. Well, yeah. But I got to do the same. I got to live that day. 3,000 times or something. When someone did the math on it once.
It was a great movie, man.
There was lots of irony in it. There was lots of disbelief. There were all kinds of different emotions as a guy just sees all the frustration of who he is versus what he's really trying to get done. And
Right.
Initially what he's trying to get done is just like, kind of push everybody around and be a big shot. And then eventually he kind of sees that he's missing the boat and there is a woman there that's really worth pursuing in a human way, in a kind of, I don't want to say an adult way, but like a reasonable way rather than just being a hitter or a cruiser,
I know what you mean.
You have to sort of figure out who the hell is he anyway, which takes a long time.
How fun was it to shoot Kingpin with Woody Harrelson? I mean, that was a fun movie. That's an underrated movie, about bowling and the characters that throw those strikes and spares. I mean, but it was so much more than that. It was about jealousy and competition and vanity and all of those things, right?
Well, I love that. Yes, it truly is a very underrated movie about bowling. I think all bowling movies are underrated movies about bowling. I mean, yeah, it was Woody. You ask about Woody Harrelson. Woody's one of just the most fun guys to be with. He's just he's a really live wire, and that he's just a cat, man. He's got it going. He's in great physical condition. He does like Ashtanga yoga. He eats like he's in a laboratory. He eats incredibly healthy food, and yet he has more fun than a barrel of monkeys. He's a very interesting, complicated guy, and he's absolutely fearless. I mean, he goes to London and does plays in the West End all the time, all the time, and just does it because he wants to. He's not afraid to do anything. He's done all kinds of crazy roles. I mean, Larry Flint.
Yes.
He got arrested for bringing hemp seeds into Kentucky. Not even the THC kind, just hemp seeds, because he believed that Kentucky was a state which had lost an enormous amount of its tobacco raising income, because tobacco just has a different popularity than it had, 30 years ago or 40 years ago.
Yes.
And they arrested him when he walked over the bridge, the Louisville Bridge, I think it was. But the fact was, he was absolutely right. And that business, the hemp business, is saving, the economy of, certainly helping the economy of Kentucky, doing a lot of things. So he's a thinking man. He's much, he acts like he's like taking a couple of hits to the head with a bat, but he's really a smart fella. He's very intelligent and is always stretching, trying to learn more, read more. He's always reading, just, kind of like downloaded or just pamphlets or papers done by scientists. He's just a sharp guy, and he's living well. We're having a lot of fun, and working with those Farrelly brothers. That is a real treat. Those guys make movie making really fun. They're really fun.
Do you have a favorite movie? Do you have a favorite movie that you made and said, this is it, this is mine, or do you like them all for different reasons?
You're not really supposed to have a favorite. It's like you're not supposed to have a favorite kid.
No, I understand.
I really like this one I did called Broken Flowers. I did it with Jim Jarmusch. He directed it and wrote it.
Okay.
And I thought that was about as good as I could do. And at that moment, I thought, well, that's pretty much it. I can't do any better than that. and I began thinking I should get a new career, and think of something else to do.
Wow.
But nothing came up. I couldn't figure anything else out to do. I don't have any other marketable skills or anything else that just sort of attracts me in terms of I mean, you really got. I mean, people don't believe it, but it's not easy.
No,
the jobs are not easy. It's hard work, and you really do. It's not for everyone because it can be really crushing to have to really carry the ball. You know how it is. I mean, you're someone that had to deal with extraordinary pressure, right?
Yeah.
To be a field goal kicker is sort of like being what I always refer to being a special effects guy in the movies is about the worst job. Because if you do it right, people go hey, it worked.
That worked.
And if you don't do it right, man, you sure hear about it. And everybody stares at you. And you've got to reset the whole thing. And you've got to rebuild the whole thing. And the explosion didn't work. The car fell off this didn't work. That didn't work. Because if it doesn't work, it breaks usually. And it's sort of like in your racket, if you miss a field goal, it's not like they line it up and you get to kick it again. We got to start all over. We got to play defense. We got to get the ball back. Then we got to move the ball down the field. And then we got to let this idiot Morten try and kick the field goal again. It's a long process to get back to it. And that's what special effects is like too. It does. They don't just do it. It's not like click, now do it again, click. It's not a computer screen. It's real. It's 3D. And if it fails, it fails miserably. You don't even laugh at it. There's nothing to laugh at because you just go, great. Here goes another hour and a half, 2 hours of my life wasted. I got to wait for this to be rebuilt,
Here's how I feel. Here's what I feel about pressure. We talk about pressure and the pressure of getting a gig right or getting the right script but the way I feel about pressure is that I've said it many times is when your skill set doesn't match the task at hand, you feel pressure. But I always felt like you were in control, that I know you take risks. You took risks as an actor. And so with that in mind, what did you look for in a script that enticed you, that told you, okay, this is the script that I'm going with versus another script? Was there certain things you looked for?
It's funny. There's nothing that I'm waiting for. Although when I made that Japanese movie, Lost in Translation with Sophia Coppola, that was a time when I thought, I thought I'd like to try something where I actually have to be with a woman as opposed to be sort of a kind of whatever the hell I was doing. I thought it'd be fun to have a little bit more serious. And then that script just appeared, but I wasn't looking for that. And I don't go out and say, I'm looking for a script about a man who wants to find water in the desert. I don't think that way. And I don't, I like the script comes to me. If I see it and I like it, I go, okay, I can do this. And it's like you say, if you've got the skill set, if I look at it, I say, I can do this. Every once in a while you get one, you go like, this poor son of a bitch is really going to have trouble making this thing work because it's really hard. And I've tossed in with a couple people just for the hell of it because I thought it was such a complete long shot that they could ever make it work. But it wasn't that I was looking for anything. I'm not really looking for much. And unless I start writing for myself, I probably won't be. I probably won't be looking. I'm just not. It's not how it's not how it gets to me. It's got to kind of sneak up and get me under the ribs.
Bill, I know you got to go. So to finish off, can I throw a few names at you? And whatever comes to mind when I say the names, it can be one word or a sentence. Do you mind? Play the name game with me?
Well, yeah, it makes me laugh. See, you're making me laugh anyway. You're making me laugh.
Good.
So,
okay.
Yeah, no,
that's
good.
That's good.
Sure. You see the room that I'm in. I'm in it's not exactly a closet, but there's a lot of chairs that are stacked atop each other. The kind of chairs that you can stack like 5 atop each other. And then there's kind of rolling, sort of look like they're business office chairs. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those in here. There's 9, 13. There's 17 of these stacked chairs. There's a rolling cart of coffee cups over there, and there's someone's birthday chocolate cake that's over there that looks like it's been being eaten for a couple of days. some Clorox wipes, and a vacuum cleaner. So yeah, so you're cheering me up here. I mean, this is where they put someone when they have like a psychotic attack on an airplane. This is where they put them, a little holding area.
Bill, I just want you to know how much I appreciate you going out of your way to do this, man. This could be a one-off. I hope it's not. I hope when we have more time that we can sit down and have a glass of wine together and maybe do it in a civilized manner. But this works for me. It might not seem great from your vantage point, but just imagine John Belushi next to you.
No, it's if it works for you, then I'm happy. That's all. It's the only reason I did it. I did not do it. I did not do it for myself or to promote this kind of housing that I'm in here now. Oh, there's also like decorations hanging from the styrofoam ceiling, Yeah, like stars and whatever. Okay, but yeah, this is if it works for you, that's great. I'm happy. I'm really happy that it works because I thought, well, hell, you sound like you have some ambition, and I enjoy talking to you when we get together. So we'll see. All right, you want to play this name game thing, and you got that from some other podcast or something, I'm sure. Barbara Walters used to do that stuff too.
All right, let's skip it then. Let's not do it. Let's not do it.
No, let's try it. Well, I don't think I've ever tried it. And if I don't have anything, I'll just say, give me another one. That's all. I'm not gonna. Okay. You're not gonna make me say I hate him and everything he stands for, unless it's someone who I really hate.
All right. I appreciate it. John. So let's start with your brother.
He's really the guy that got it started. He had lots of guts. He gave up a job. He gave up a really well-paying job, and he was supposed to be supporting our family after my father died. And he told my mother, "I'm going to become an improvisational actor." Well, you can imagine how that went over, particularly with the younger children. But he had guts, and he did it. And he has continued to live his life the way he likes to live it. He's a very, very independent person, and he loves to think, and he loves to be funny, and he loves people. You can drop this guy into any situation, and his like body chemistry changes, his molecular structure changes, and he fits completely into the situation he's in. He's an extraordinary person. I'm so happy to be following him in life. It's great.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to spend some time with him in Atlanta during the East Lake Invitational, and we had great conversation. He's a great hang.
Like, everybody likes Brian better than they like me. Everyone. It's not even close. Well, everyone likes my brothers better than
nobody
they
can
like
ever
me.
find you, Bill. Bill, nobody can ever find you. That's the problem.
Well, that's because nobody likes me. That's why I go hide.
Oh, I love you.
Everyone loves my brothers. My brothers are just spectacular.
You mentioned the movie Lost in Transaction, so let me get your thoughts on Sophia Coppola.
Lost in Transaction. That's fantastic. I got to write stuff down.
No, I said translation. I said translation. Did I not say translation? I thought I did.
Whatever you meant doesn't matter. You said Lost in Transaction, which is far more important than getting it right. Lost in Transaction. Okay. All right, go on ahead.
Sophia Coppola.
Yes. Oh, yeah. When we talk about her, yeah, she's great. She's great. I've done a couple things with her now. I did a movie called Lost in Transaction, and then I did a Very Merry Christmas, I think it was called, a Christmas show that we did from Netflix, and that's really worth seeing. That's a really good one. You talk about things I really like. That's really good. That's about as good as an entertainment as I've ever been a part of, practically. And it had amazing people in it that showed up, and Maya Rudolph and Clooney and Miley Cyrus and Paul Schaefer and Steve Jordan and God, I can't even remember, Rashida Jones and Amy Poehler and Julie White. I'm forgetting people, but that's an amazing thing to see. A Christmas show, one of the best ever, I think. As good as any Christmas show movie ever made. And Sophia did that. And Roman helped on that. And our friend Mitch Glazer did most of the writing of it. That was really fun. But we also did one. I did one with Rashida Jones and not Marlon Brando, Marlon Wayans, called On the Rocks just this year. And that's a really good movie too. And that's Sophia. But she's like the third generation of filmmaker in that family. Like the grandfather did movie scores, and her dad did Godfather and Conversation and Apocalypse Now. And now she's done these things, and you know, you cannot refer to her as her father's daughter anymore because she's done some amazing things. She did a spec script for the Virgin Suicides, unasked, uninvited, just wrote it and showed up with this script. And they went, "Oh, this is better than what we got," and they shot her script.
Wow!
So she knows what she's doing. You know, you talk about the comfort zone of being with people who know what they're doing. She knows what she's doing. So it's a good thing to be in with her because you feel great comfort that she knows exactly what she's doing. There's no lack of confidence working with her.
What was your relationship like? And it don't have to be long with Belushi, John Belushi. I was fascinated, obviously, Animal House and his genius of his physical comedy. Right? He was so in your face.
He was definitely a body actor. He was the best stage actor I ever saw, better than all the other guys I ever saw on the stage, including like your fancy pants actors. He was magnetic. He walked on the stage and you could not look at anybody else. He was that good. And he also had the ability to direct an improvisation from within the scene. He could see where things had to go and he could do things. But he had absolutely steel stones of courage. He came to New York to be a star, and there was no doubt it was going to happen. And he did it. He really had it. And most of us spent a certain number of days or weeks on the couch at his stuff at his place because he knew that he was sort of like the landing spot for people. He brought everyone out from Chicago. He brought Harold, Ramis, and Flaherty, and myself, and Brian, all these guys out. You know, he really made it happen for all these clowns, you know. So, you know, everyone owes him a debt, and he's terribly missed. And he was great. He was just great. And he really was he was so unique, you know, and incredibly generous to his friends.
What about Chevy Chase? I mean, iconic movie. Obviously, it's a cult movie, Caddyshack, and you were great in it, and Chevy was great in it. What was it like working with Chevy Chase?
Well, I don't know what cult you're in, Morten. I really don't. But I had you pegged for a cult guy. It's an underrated movie about golf. It's like a bowling route, but it's a movie that it's about class in a way. Class, you know,
yes,
struggles in a funny way. And it shows like country club life versus like a caddy's life. And that's sort of where we came out of. My brothers and I were caddies. And, you know, that's sort of, and now we're walking the streets in a polished pair of shoes. It's been okay. But Chevy he's really fun to hang around with. He can really, I mean, it was a long time before I actually hung around with him and watched how, even at work, it wasn't like hanging around with him, but just hanging around with him and walking around the town and around the buildings with him, he does some really funny stuff. He really likes to make you laugh. And when he does that, he's irresistible. He's really funny. He's really funny.
You know, when he does the faces when you're not looking, is that kind of what you're talking about? Like, you know, he'd mimic you and...
Well, that's just one thing. That's just one thing that he really mastered and really took to another level. He could really do that, and it became something like everyone in America imitated that sort of stuff, you know. But he just had so much funny shtick, you know.
Yeah.
Like he didn't reach into his pocket and then he would have like 15 coins and he would spill them all over the place as you were getting into an elevator, and it was just like, God damn, I don't think that way. He was just really, he really liked to make you laugh. And he would go the extra yard to set things up in advance to make it happen. He did a really funny thing. He came to my house once. I was having a party, and it was not a big place at all. And I was sort of walking down the hall about to use the restroom, and he goes, "As good as it." And he jumped in front of me like, "I need to use the restroom first." And he slammed the door so hard, I just stood right next to the door, and immediately I heard like liquid hitting the toilet, and I was sort of, and hard, you know, with force. I thought, wow, he really had to get in there. And it went on for like 2 minutes. And of course he had stashed a pitcher of water in there so he could do this. And he knew exactly what he was doing. But that was, he's a funny fella. He's a funny fella. And, you know, he took all those falls and man, he hurt himself taking those falls. So I'm sorry, but he really gave it up for his comedy. He did.
One of the movies you did was Space Jam with Michael Jordan. How fun was it to be with him?
Oh, well, I mean, when we did the movie, the Space Jam, that was it was great because we would do a scene, and then they'd have to turn the camera around, which would take 45 minutes, and we would just go play golf and then come back.
Perfect.
That was a pretty good job. Pretty good job. But yeah, he I like to tease him. Nobody teases Michael Jordan, but that's why I really enjoyed messing with him, because nobody gets to mess with him. But on a movie set, I'm the guy, and I get to do whatever I want. So it was fun. All right, well, I'm being escorted now. I got to go now. I'm walking through the lounge and people are staring at me because I'm talking, but I got to go catch the plane now. So you say hi to everybody. I'll see you. I'll see you down there. I hope you're working on your golf game. And there, we got through that. That wasn't so bad. I'll just take this. Yeah, we got
I'll let you go.
Where do you hear your show, and what's it called anyway?
It's called Great Dane Nation. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts. Great Dane Nation, buddy.
I love it. That's great. Okay, I just downloaded. I like just having Spotify. I just downloaded the soundtrack from the movie Nebraska. Did you ever see that movie by Alexander Payne? The soundtrack is really great. Go ahead and try that one. It's by a guy named Orton. I'm not sure if his name's Joe Orton, but it's really great.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. Now you hear the announcements.
Where you going, man?
I'm not sure, but there's a lady with a mask leading me, so I'm excited.